Hi and welcome to this, crossover between article critiquing and factually wrong, two types of videos I'm making. Today's article, opinion, true master photographers shoot for the JPEG, not the RAW. I'll tackle the unbelievably hard question, can an opinion be wrong? The answer might surprise you. Yes, easily. And they often are, especially if your opinion deals with facts and you're too stupid and or wrong. What I'm saying is, if you're factually wrong, it's not an opinion, it's stupidity, or at least lack of knowledge. First off, this is a stupid article by an angry man, but also a clear example of an idiot with a superiority complex, though lacking the knowledge and experience to back it up, which for some reason has turned him into a sourpuss.
I must steadfast believe that a good photographer is in control of their camera and does at least 80% of the work in camera.
Okay, I'm going to go with 100% here, because no matter who you are, when you shoot with a camera, you point at something, you might do auto, but there's a good chance you make sure that the focus and exposure is where you want it. No matter if you're standing with an iPhone or a $5,000 professional camera.
This piece is obviously going to annoy a ton of people. Quite honestly, I'm not apologizing for it.
Well, it really won't annoy people, since it's an attack with full-on condescension and belittling of anyone but himself.
I think there are great photo editors. I believe that some people that we label photographers are some of the best Photoshop artists of our time, but I genuinely don't think they're photographers. I don't believe that you're a photographer if you use Adobe Lightroom and Lightroom camera.
So we'll take a break here. Okay, moron boy probably means camera raw. Lightroom camera, I guess if it should be a thing, it would be if you use the Lightroom app for your phone and then use the camera in the Lightroom app. Go on.
But I don't. Instead, I think that a photographer works to get the image as perfect as possible in camera. Great photo processor work in post-production. Can you be both? Sure. But most photographers are one or the other. The label is essential for the future of our industry.
Does he even know how camera or raw editors work? So is correcting the white balance if it's a bit off, is that ruining it for everyone? So a slight warning, here comes some rambling bullshit soup with zero coherency.
Let's step back into the days of the purest photographers. What they used to do is shoot and then go process the image themselves. That spirit is very much alive and well in today's photography community, with one big exception: the barrier of entry is much lower.
I think I'm going to disagree, but it depends where he's going with this. If the first year is going back to the start of the 1900s, everyone could get the chemicals and build a box and make a hole, so I'd say it had a pretty low bar. But let's go on.
Everyone can be a photographer or Photoshop artist. Now, one of the significant differences is that those old school photographers spend a whole lot of time working in the camera beforehand to get the image that they wanted. That doesn't happen a whole lot today.
So a bit confused about that. Doesn't people look in their camera? Don't they check the settings, make sure it's well exposed? I don't know, apparently not. Today people are shooting blindfolded.
Then time changed. Photographers shot image and passed them off into labs and processors while they spent more time shooting. This was more commonplace. Eventually, photographers ended up shooting and processing themselves, but most of that work was still done beforehand. If they were a photographer who created moments wearing blah blah blah.
First off, the labs thing, sure, that came, but it was later. When it got more mainstream, people were doing it themselves from the beginning. Then some people started offering, we can fix your photos for you, and it ended up being labs. And that's where the 70s, 80s, 90s, when everyone just more or less just started doing snapshots and sent it in to get processed because it got cheaper and cheaper. But a lot of people still did it themselves if they're photographers, because there's more to it than just taking the picture. All this happened simultaneously. Some people got it processed, some people kept doing it themselves because they either want to do it themselves or it was cheaper. But here comes something I'm not even sure want to go. It's moment versus capturing. Let me reiterate, blah 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 blah. Something that makes no sense about simply capturing or controlling and having your say. Something about if you don't do it while looking at pushing the button or something. I don't know. It makes no sense. When processing the images, those old photographers didn't necessarily take a color photos and convert it into black and white. They didn't add a whole lot of clarity because that typically needed to be done beforehand with a lens filter. Was it possible? Sure, but it didn't happen often. Yes, the date, it happened a lot. Okay, moron man making this article. Have you ever been inside a dark room? Have you ever seen or used a light table? Lightroom is mimicking a light table. I'm guessing the name comes from dark room and light table made it to Lightroom. But the processing was a part of the fucking process. The main reason you did it yourself is to make sure the picture came out as you wanted it. To make sure the sky wasn't blown out or the house is too dark. How fucking clueless is this guy? Does he not know how things work? Seriously, he should try taking photos at one time or another. And I forgot to address the low bar. The bar has always been low. An SLR camera or any other camera with all kinds of settings. If you go into a thrift store or something, you'll find the cameras. You can change all the settings you want. ISO you can't change, that's film dependent. But most cameras were manual back in the day. Then they turned more and more automatic. But the thing is, everyone could afford it. The only thing you can do to really set yourself apart was to get a medium format camera. But then you can take way less pictures and they were way bigger and way heavier, since the film was about 4 times as big. The only time the bar has been really high was at the beginning of digital pro photography. It's actually only until recently prices had started coming down so you could get a good full frame camera or a really good APS-C sensor camera that could rival a pro camera for a price a regular person could pay. Sure, a really good camera doesn't necessarily make you a better photographer, but if the two cameras competing in this, let's say Nikon D3500 camera and Sony A1, I don't think there's any competition. So on with the article.
Now that brings us to today. This evolution of the world has broken into 2 spaces: Photoshop artists and photographers.
Before we go on, I kind of feel the same way. To me, there are editors and manipulators. None of those two are bad in any way. The way I see it is the editor who just use a raw editor to fix some stuff. Adjust the small things you can't do in camera because of camera, sensors, weather, lighting and everything. And that is one of the reasons you use the raw is you can get the picture you want, the one you see when you take it, which the in-camera can't really do for you. But that's people who are just editing a bit in it. So changing light, dark, sharpness, contrast and stuff like that. Then you got the manipulators. That's the Photoshop crowd. That's the guys who takes different pictures or put everything in the picture, who has a vision, who makes sometimes more of a collage, but someone who knows what they're doing and what they want to see. But let's see what's his definition here.
A Photoshop artist does a lot of work in post-production to get the image that they like. It can include working in Capture One or Lightroom.
A Photoshop artist working in Capture One or Lightroom. Okay, if anyone has any doubt here, Capture One and Lightroom is not, I repeat, not Photoshop. Photoshop is Photoshop. Affinity Photo is Photoshop. Painter Pro is Photoshop. Capture One and Lightroom are raw editors. Like Camera Raw, which you use when you take raw pictures into Photoshop, is a raw editor. It's not Photoshop. Photoshop is Photoshop. That's a step that comes after the Camera Raw if you open it in Photoshop.
There are tons of them. Look on YouTube. There are tons of tutorials. It's all about the post-production side of things. We featured a ton of them in our creative photographer. And that's cool, but generally, most of those photographers make the magic of the image come out in post-production. They have little to no control. I don't really care about it when they're capturing a scene in camera.
Okay, listen here, you fucking condescending little fucking prick. You're an asshole. You're the thing that's wrong with the world. Listen here, compositors often take tons of pictures of the same scene with different elements to make one flawless picture. This involves attention to minute detail and also constantly fine-tuning camera settings so the elements will fit together in post. That means they don't have to take one picture that has to be okay. Some of the big ideas have maybe 50 elements and you can't do that at once and they will look amazing. So don't fucking say someone who got that much control over cameras are not photographers. Don't fucking diss something just because you're a fucking idiot who can't do it and then say, oh, that's magic, that's cheating. It's not. They're just much better than you. Your tiny frail ego should just run away from this. If you can't handle someone being better than you, don't.
Again, that's cool. But let's put the shoe on the other foot. Can we call a photographer who works to get the image perfect right in camera a Photoshop artist or post-production specialist?
Well, first off, that's a bit the chicken in the cow barn reversed. That's how a 5-year-old thinks. The obvious answer is you can call the other people who knows how to use the cameras and take the pictures and stitch them together experts at it. On the other hand, you could call yourself an expert moron. But no, if you don't do anything, that's not an argument. I know a 5-year-old can't understand that, but that's how it is.
So how and why do post-production specialists get to be called photographers?
Well, if the person is purely an editor, the person will be called a photo editor and not a a photographer.
So why can't everyone just stay in the lane? A photographer, by this thought process, is one that spends most of the time getting the shot in camera.
Okay, everybody spends the time getting the shot in camera.
Changes can happen in post-production. I'm not at all saying that it can't. However, I think that modern photographers these days should be seen as mostly pure. Mostly pure what? Post-production can happen, but like retouching, there should be an ethical line. I'm not sure where this pure thing is going, but to that end, I think that real photographers should, for the JPEG, they get the photograph to be as perfectly close to a final image in camera as possible.
That's what every fucking body is doing. But if I understand this correct, then if we should go by the film thing, unless you shoot on Polaroid, you're not a fucking photographer. That should be the deal here. JPEG camera, if you use a film camera, Polaroids, anything else is apparently cheating or something.
Then they require almost no retouching or work on the photos. And that way, the average hobbyist is more photographer than some professionals. A few professionals simply capture 1,000 pictures and then spend forever and attain post-production, making the image come alive. But they shoot 1,000 to get that one.
See, again, why doesn't he know this? Everyone shoots to get as close as possible, but most cameras have a tendency to have a slight tint. It's different for different camera brands and the lenses used and stuff. So most people, if they take a lot of pictures or anything, they would have a preset they'll apply that will neutralize the tint color and whatever they do. If they've turned down sharpness in camera to make sure it doesn't get over sharpened, then they'll add a bit of sharpness, what they know will be there. And it doesn't take forever in a day. Normally you add it at import. It's a super fast process. And that's why they take 1,000 pictures, because then you can throw it in, it's there, you can look at it, a finished result, with the exception if you're outside, you might have to check that the white balance is perfect. But other than that, that's just a stupid sentence from a person who knows nothing.
Compare this to the hobbyist that shoots and is okay with the JPEG. They clearly shot a photo. They're a photographer. They didn't spend any bit of time in post-production if it's straight out of a camera photo.
Well, on the other way around, the problem there is you're letting the in-camera raw processing work, which means it decides what it's going to look like. You don't get to decide that. Some cameras you can add a style to the picture and then it will be there, but no, you're taking away a lot of control. This is basically the same as putting the camera on auto. You got it on auto, it decides the picture. You make the camera make your JPEG file, it's on auto, it makes it. I'm going to say if you do it that way, you're trying to get as far away from being a photographer as humanly possible, because you don't want anything to do with that process. And that's not good, because cameras aren't perfect. Neither is people, but if a photo is messed up, you got no chance. Then you have to be the lazy workman who blames his tools. Like, well, I tried to make it good, but I shot in all auto, so yeah, it fucked up, but it's not my fault.
With all this said, there's nothing wrong with shooting RAW and JPEG, but real photographers shoot for the JPEG and rely on the RAW when they need to.
So what you're doing now is you're arguing the lab. I would argue that you should control the whole process, not just look through the viewfinder or the screen. You should control the camera, you should control the raw process. That other thing, that's lazy and bad. That's how you get bad photos. But let's go to a kind of conclusion here. We know this Chris guy is hateful, he's stupid, and has amazingly tiny knowledge about the history of photography. Since he's mad at everyone and telling them what they're doing wrong, maybe he's a good photographer. Maybe he's amazing. So the last bit here, we'll do a review and some critiquing of his artwork. So a little bit about him. So he had taken a break from being a headshot photographer. Even though he was good enough, he wanted to be great. Let's look. Remember, perfect in camera. We'll take some portraits first. First off, crooked lines. That's just not good. You need to straighten the table. The person just looked really bored. Why would you fry an onion with that burner? So it's messy, it's crooked, but not in a way where it's saying anything. It's definitely been processed. The dark has been lifted so it's not completely dark, and the brights are a bit blown out. Okay, here. Focus totally missed the eyes. That's really bad and uneven. It gets really dark here, but you can see it's been processed also on the color. The focus has missed her. The light is blown out. That's a bad photo. This one also color filters like the others. The photo is shaken. It's motion blurred and everything else is out of focus. So that's a shitty job in camera. Again, movement shake. Everything's a bit blurry, even her face. The focus is off. This has been over sharpened. The focus about here, he's over sharpened the face, which looks weird because it's kind of haloing. A really terrible in camera and also processed. This picture is crooked but couldn't be straightened because her knee would get out, so very bad framing like the others. Same problem. Let's go to something more. Multiple exposures. This could have been okay if he didn't take 2 of the face in the middle, which looks really bad, so bad. Too many exposures on top of each other. There's no cohesion in it. This one is bad. Okay, there's rules in photography. Not that you always have to follow rules, but normally action goes from left to right because that's how the eye see it, that's how the brain perceives it. If you do it the other way, you're making it go backwards. If it had been the right way, it would have looked okay. It can even be it's the right way it's doing, because then it would be lighting it and going lighting, sucking, blowing, even though the smoke is not clear because there's missing lights and it's kind of badly made. Next, oh, this is horrible. This is what not to do if you do multiple exposures. Don't make people's faces see-through and their bodies. This is an example of what never to do. This is one of the worst I've seen. So you go, but they're ghosts. But no, then you would have made them more translucent all the way and not this different. Look at it. Different exposures for every one of them. Badly so, they've turned out way too different. Oh my god, this is horrible. That's just slow shutter. Wow, that is horrible. In-camera painting. Oh yes, slow shutter, shaking the camera. Some ghosts there, that looks okay. Oh, this is not good. Wow, this is just the standard. Oh, I accidentally hit the shutter while walking with the camera. Oh my god, that's so bad. Okay, we're going with cotton tape. Creative expression based on personal frustration with eyesight. Oh, so it doesn't see that well. American culture and obsession with vintage objects, specifically the 70s and 80s. So VHS tapes and stuff. Well, let's see. Okay, there's bad water reflection noise right there. It has some really badly copied VHS kind of style noise put in there. There's a way too uniform noise. Noise is not that uniform. Always not like that. Oh, and then he's thrown in a frame. Wow. This is a picture with 4 or 5 really bad cheap filters from mobile phone. Let's see. It's okay. Crappy mobile phone apps. The same. That's wow. Have you ever seen VHS tapes? This is just a really ugly noise. Well, it's not a noise filter. That's just a texture. It's not even noise he added. And then why would you do that water reflection crappy thingy? And then the noise. Okay, and the frame. So it's a mobile phone app he's using for this. Same here. Some chromatic aberrations thrown in there. The noise. Oh, you can even see how badly cut out this here. It gets white sides like a badly cut out PNG. Look at the white edges. And same for. Oh my god, does he even use time to do this? Oh my god, this is horrible. No, that's just a square field. Oh my god. And that's just that picture with chromatic aberrations and then noise on the other side. Still badly cut out. Oh my god. I see why he's mad. Cameras can't do better pictures than this. Look at mine. I think his problem is not that people are using editors. His problem is he's a crap photographer who couldn't make a picture work. The secret of the slice. Okay, maybe that would be better if it wasn't an obviously empty box you got there. There you can't see it's empty. But the light does make it look creepy. Oh, you can see it's empty and you can see the lamp. You can see, oh, here you can see the lamp clearly. You can clearly see there's nothing in it. So people are looking happy, surprised because there's nothing in it. Oh, here you got the lamp shining through and you can see it's empty still. Oh my god. Oh my, oh yes, it's empty, alright. And other empty box. Oh, and the lamp is shining through again. Oh my god. And by the way, these are badly, if they're not just in-camera exposures I can see, but wow, the camera settings are horrible. His focus is, oh my god, he should work on this. Why do we have to see the empty? But it's the secret order of the slice. So, an ode to the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Yeah, but the thing is, it was subtle. In Pulp Fiction, you have to do it subtle. Sure, it's not subtle, there's a light in there, but you tone down the people, you tone down the effect. It shouldn't be the only focus in the picture, especially when you do it this badly. Oh my fucking god. So, conclusion. He's a pissed off idiot who apparently hates everybody because I don't know why. I guess because everyone who owns a phone is better than him at this. I don't know. My god, he's horrible. I can understand why he's mad. So, Chris, I'm sorry. I see why you are so mad. You are a horrible photographer. And no matter how much time you spend in post-production, nothing could help you. So I see why you're that mad.